take a look at Lanni Marchant, everyone, because she just gave an unbelievable piece of testimony at the Standing Committee on, what's it called now? Of course, the browser's going to freeze. We'll put the camera on me. Whoa. Hi, everybody. Can't get the lighting. Too much backlit. Is that any better? My goodness. Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer McCreath. Happy Groundhog Day, February 2nd, 2023. I caught some of this on the news about 2 or 3 hours ago, and it was so... what's the word? Stunned, shocked, touched, a bit of everything of what I saw. So I went and downloaded the whole meeting and listened to it. And funny, Lanni Marchant is a Canadian athlete, marathon runner. I actually remember hearing about her story 10 years ago. She set the Canadian record for the fastest marathon by a woman, yet was not allowed or not given the opportunity to represent Canada in the 2012 Summer Olympics in the marathon, because Athletics Canada had silly, stupid policies. For some reason, they only wanted female marathon runners to represent Canada if they felt that they could actually win a medal. And which is kind of ironic, because when I watch Canadian Olympics, as I've been doing for more than 40 years, the first Olympics I ever watched was in 1976. And I would have literally been 2.5 years old watching that, but I do have a few memories of that. More so in the 80s and 90s, watching Canadian after Canadian do performance after performance, finishing 24th, even though the idiot commentators said, oh, this is our medal hope, this person's going to win the gold, and they made them feel terrible when they didn't win the gold or even a bronze. Yet they come out in an interview and say, you know what, I gave it my best, it was my personal best, I'm really happy with my performance. This committee talks about women in sports, women equality, promoting women to be involved in athletics, not just in the elite level, but general. They were looking at issues of just getting young people athletically involved, living healthy lives, maybe, yeah. And hearing Lanni's story, heartbreaking story of the abuse she had to put up with as a young athlete, initially in figure skating, and then later evolving into running, from whether high school, university, and then at an elite level, getting involved with the Canadian national team. Oh my goodness. And the fact that Lanni had spoken out before, apparently, and I went and downloaded that video. This committee met 6.5 years ago, and she basically told the same thing. And these goddamn government committees, they set them up to undertake investigations, come up with recommendations to a problem, and implement a solution. Well, most of the time, they don't ever get to implementing a solution. They hold these committee meetings, they have the witnesses come out there and tell their stories, bare their souls, risk their life and reputation. Lanni even said, 2016, I'm going to lose my funding because I'm speaking out here. And it's a disgrace, and I'm disgusted for Canada that our athletic system is in such disarray that we would rather protect abusive coaches than hurt our reputation. We're starting to see it. The junior hockey stories that have come out in the past year, absolutely horrible. Stories being told about hazing in sports. I got to be honest. When I was maybe 11 or 12 years old. This is pre-Jennifer. Y'all know me, maybe you don't. I'm a trans woman, born male, transitioned to female, and have tried to make a name for myself as a trans activist because I'm not your prototypical trans person. I'm an athlete, at least I was. Now I'm just old and injured, but I ran marathons, and I played quite a bit of tennis in my younger days, and I also got involved in politics. I've run as a political candidate, so trans Canadians probably know who I am. I've tried to make some noise to get Athletics Canada to look at trans athletes. Poor Lanni talks about how the men get all the money and the sponsorships, and women, they don't seem to care. They don't even understand. Lanni talked about being over 30, and this stereotype that athletes who are over than 30 are over the hill. Not so in distance running. The best distance running, when it comes to marathon running, are people in their late 30s and early 40s. I didn't even take up distance running until I was 33. And I literally went from fat couch potato to Boston Marathon qualifier in a year and a half. That's how good I was. And the reason I took up running was just to get in shape, because I knew I was going to start this gender transition process. I read that when you go from male to female, you take the different hormones, and you have the surgery, you lose your testosterone, and you start taking estrogen, you're going to gain weight. So I'm like, maybe I should lose some weight because I'm going to probably gain some of it back. It just so happened I got so fired up about running, and I guess I was a natural. I said, look, this was 2008, 7, 8, 9, around then. We'd already seen trans athletes step up to the plate in 2003, say, let's take a look at policies. There are trans people who are considering athletics and may be willing and able to qualify for the Canadian Olympic team. And they went to the IOC, International Olympic Committee, and said, let's look at some standards here. And they came up with a policy, and at that time 2 or 3 trans people came very close to making their Olympic team, but did not quite make it. As we saw, I guess was it 2 years ago, 1 year ago, the first ever trans woman athlete in the Olympics, Laurel Hubbard of New Zealand, and that led to a huge negative backlash and fake stories about how trans women have this so-called unfair advantage. Well, Laurel Hubbard finished near the bottom of the pack. Lanni, I'm going to send this video to you. Wow, I'm really impressed with the 2 speeches. I guess being a lawyer kind of helps you get up in front of a committee and give this type of testimony. But you're very well spoken, very professional, and like you, I tend to have a big mouth, and like you, I don't give a shit sometimes. I'll just, if there's something that needs to be said or done and nobody else has the guts to stand up and say it, I'm usually the one that turns on the camera and says it. I've paid the price for my activism. I've lost employment for being trans. I've lost employment for speaking out. I've made a lot of enemies because of the stances I've taken to fight for those type of equalities. I guess I just want to say I'm here. I see you. I hear you. And I don't know if there's anything I can do at this point to be part of this solution, but just turning on my video camera and talking about this. Why is it we've known for years about abuse in sports, inequalities in sports, specifically women's sports not being properly funded or given equal attention? Believe me, there's practically no interest in helping or encouraging trans people to get involved in sports. Everyone seems to think that the only reason a trans person would get into athletics is because they want to cheat the system and win a gold medal that they don't deserve. No. I continued to be athletic in my 30s through transition because I wanted to be as happy and as healthy as possible. Being physically fit not only helps your physical fitness, but it helps your mental fitness. And the last thing we want to do is have a system that will discourage people from getting involved in sports, whether that be a trans person, whether it be a young female looking to get into, whether it's figure skating, running, or any of these sports. The comments, the body shaming and the sexualization of young female athletes, it's definitely a double standard that's disgusting and inappropriate. It shouldn't matter what you look like in terms of so-called physical beauty or sex appeal. Athletics is about being happy and healthy, and that's what a true role model is. Again, Athletics Canada, y'all are a bunch of fucking assholes as far as I'm concerned. I reached out to you guys when I was in my so-called prime. Not that I was ever going to go to the Olympics, but I was a pioneer at the time, a trans woman going through this transition, already a near elite level marathon runner. Only the top 10% of marathon runners can run fast enough to qualify for Boston, and that's the benchmark that I've met as a male and continued to attempt to do through transition. I found out quite quickly I went from being a top 10% male runner to a back of the pack female runner as a trans person just 2 years later. We don't have a competitive advantage for marathon running. We're actually at a disadvantage. Yes, we have heavier bones, which is a disadvantage. Being heavy in running marathons does not go over well. I ran several marathons, big and small, where I was literally probably the heaviest person running. 2008, I ran a 3-hour 16-minute marathon and a 3-hour 19-minute marathon in Ontario, and here I was, probably 180 pounds, and everyone else crossing the finish line at the same time as me, male or female, was probably 130 pounds or less. And I kept going. I ran so hard that I basically trained like an elite athlete. I wrecked my knees and went through all sorts of problems. I kept running through transition and still managed to gain weight. That's what estrogen does to you. And I kept running until I literally couldn't do it anymore. The last year of marathon running, I ran marathons at 232 pounds. At which point I barely was able to finish marathons in 6 hours. The next year, I did a half marathon in 3 hours, and I was at the back of the pack for the whole thing. My back was killing me, and, well, abuse of body. Overuse. You run as much as these elite athletes do. I don't care what sport you're doing. We're going to let that ring, because this is important stuff. Now, I'm your typical 49-year-old beat-up former athlete who's now out of shape and has serious chronic injuries and torn ligaments and all that sort of stuff. But I want to keep this conversation going. Lanni, your words are not going to go in vain. You seem like a very strong, powerful person, and you don't necessarily need my help or support, but I want you to know that you've got a supporter and a fan and a friend out here in Newfoundland, and oh, for God's sakes, leave me alone. I'm busy. I'm doing a video. Yeah, I don't care who you are. If you are watching this video, go and watch this committee hearing and listen, not just to Lanni, but the other athletes, what they have to say, because it's absolutely disgraceful and disgusting what has gone on and has been allowed to go on for many, many, many years. And I honestly don't have faith in government committees. I don't think this is lip service. They're not actually going to act on any of this stuff. We, the citizens, and Lanni said it shouldn't have to be the athletes speaking out, and maybe it helps if we all do. As a former athlete and as a fan, I'm speaking out right here, right now. I'm using what little platform I may have left, and to say I see this issue, I hear it, and I'm going to speak up and I'm going to do something about it. What that is, I'm not totally sure, but yeah, shame on Athletics Canada. You got to do better than this. And to these other sports, gymnastics we're hearing the horror stories about that. The hockey, it's just, there needs to be a complete overhaul. And Band-Aid solutions aren't going to work. God, I've been talking 16 minutes. I guess we'll wrap this thing up. Health. There's a healthcare crisis in Canada. Turn on the news. You can't find family doctors. You can't get into Emerge. We need to go out of our way to promote healthy living and do so at a young age. We need sports and athletics to be welcoming of all people, of all genders, all races, all sexualities. Get people active from a very young age. Get them engaged and interested in sports. Give them a happy and safe and welcoming environment to be themselves without being judged, body shamed, slut shamed, or any of these other horrible trolling remarks that poor Lanni has had to put up with. Lanni, you're amazing. I just can't tell you how inspired and impressed I am by watching your testimony today. Thank you for stepping up to the plate. And if there's other athletes out there that have stories like this, please do come forward and tell them, because you all deserve to have your stories told, and you all deserve some respect for what you've done and what you've put up with, not just for yourselves, but to represent supposedly this great country of Canada. I guess we'll wrap this video up. Let's keep the conversation going, okay, everyone? I'm Jennifer McCreath. Have a great day.